Welcome to the Dude Seriously Show. We're back after our Phase 1 culmination, and today we're talking about Iron Man 3. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Jared.
Tim. The coach.
Jared, what did you think of Iron Man 3?
I hate to waste words on my commentary on how I feel about the movie.
Yeah, for someone who had Iron Man as probably their second favorite character in the MCU, I was extremely let down. This is the one case where, and I know we said before, it's hard to hate a Marvel movie. This is my one. This is the one I hate. For me, this is bottom of the list.
Yeah. I don't know. This is toward the bottom for me. It is not my favorite. I have roller coaster emotions with this movie. Sometimes I go, wow, yeah, this is not a good one. And sometimes I see the merits. In our reviewing of the MCU this time around, yeah, not so hot for me.
It's the follow-up to so many great films with respect, especially what was set with Avengers. And I mentioned it during the rewatch that I went with the same two people to see Iron Man 3 that I saw with Avengers. And we left Avengers with everyone else in that audience really excited. And we all three left this one going, what just happened?
Yeah.
What did we just watch?
Yeah.
They had such an epic trailer for this too that just made you think, like you said, you just had these awesome feelings after Avengers that it was going to carry over into this one. It's a total letdown.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's Shane Black. That was the other thing I was, hoping for. It's Shane Black. Lethal Weapon Shane Black. Somebody who has a lot of fun with films, though, too, doing things like Monster Squad. But at the same time, he followed one of his standard formulas, and it didn't work here at all.
Yeah.
It was absolutely terrible.
The weird thing for me is how some people just love this movie. This movie, I think we discussed, has one of the biggest banks on it than any of the other movies. But for some reason, man, it's a stinker.
Well, yeah, I think that coming off of Avengers, imagine the pressure of not only knowing that Avengers was going to be big, but then seeing how big it was. It's like, okay, we've got a year to one-up Avengers. And I think that this movie tries to do that. There are a lot of plot points. In fact, we actually lost count of them, but just some off the top of our head. The Mandarin, Tony's PTSD, the struggles with Pepper, AIM, Extremis. And yes, there's some Venn diagram overlap with these things, but all of them are trying to have the spotlight, and it just falters. I think if this movie could have been boiled down to any of the two of those things and fleshed out really well, it wouldn't catch the backlash that it does. But I think that, Iron Man 3 is one of the Marvel movies that when you say it's not your favorite, people don't go, oh, why? It's like, okay.
I mean, you look at the past Iron Man movies. We talked about it in Iron Man 1. They do a wonderful job. They have a lot going on in it. Who's Tony Stark? What happened to Tony Stark to turn him into Iron Man? His maturation as Iron Man and leading into saving the day from Obadiah at the end of the movie. This just tries to throw you, like you said, so many freaking plot points. You're like, and by the 3/4 through the movie, they still haven't tied them together. And you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And they've lost you by that point.
It's a mess.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's funny you said it because I'm thinking to set up a proper plot or formula, it's as simple as, picking up the ball, putting it on the tee, and then hitting it. And like you said, they're throwing all these plot points. It's like somebody went into a batting cage and flipped on every machine and just swung blindly and hoped they would hit something at some point.
And instead of hitting the balls are hitting you.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring that shit on, man. Oh, God, I love it. Awesome. Oh, God, that hurt a little, but I'm all right.
And then you just don't care anymore.
Yeah. You drop your bat and you mope out of the batting cage, and it's like, all right, maybe Thor the Dark World will clean this.
Well, the weird thing for me was, as hyped as I was, I think I had really good feelings for this movie for, I don't know if it's considered the first half, but up until the house gets exploded and then it takes off.
The movie is several years old now, so we've all seen it many times at this point. Where was S.H.I.E.L.D. anywhere in this movie?
I know they're their own independent films, but you got to think about S.H.I.E.L.D. has been in the Iron Man movies since the beginning, and they don't have an eye on him, especially after he's joined them for the Avengers movie.
Certainly. And one of the elements of all the Iron Man films is his constant butting of heads with the government, and specifically the military. So you would think maybe the military might also keep tabs on Iron Man and have scrambled the Air Force, perhaps.
When those helicopters are
Yeah, when
flying,
they show
blowing
up,
stuff up.
because at that point, I'm kind of concerned about coastal defense. If those kind of armed helicopters can just fly in under the radar and start attacking civilians, we might have a bigger problem.
Yeah, I mean, you could make the comments like, "Oh, it's Tony Stark. He initiated the fight. Let's let him take care of it." But again, like you said when we were watching it, it's coastal defense. There could be
Well, at
civilians.
the same time, they had been broadcasting all over national networks about this terrorist ordeal that the Mandarin is attempting to put out there. So why would it not be a national affair? It's not just a Tony Stark thing, even though he called the Mandarin out and said, "Come find me." Sure, okay, that's great. Why aren't the rest of the armed forces doing anything about it?
Where the rest of the Avengers? They were
Right.
literally just together.
We talk a lot about the movies, even if they're a separate film from the rest of the MCU, being pretty good of world building. We've used that a lot. This in itself, it's completely isolated. Tony Stark, even though you have War Machine in there, is completely by himself. Again, the military doesn't show up. War Machine doesn't show up. Cap. This is right after New York. They had just formed all these bonds. Where the crap is everybody?
Yeah.
Nowhere to be found.
Agreed.
These sequels seem to simply put too many things into the third one, as though they have to do it.
The old expression, 10 pounds in a 5-pound bag.
Right. And you made the point about the Spider-Man Sony series, for example.
Spider-Man 3, where they crammed in multiple villains and again had so many storylines going on. It was a mess. And everybody sets that as the bar of what you don't do with the third movie, or even, I guess, a sequel. But it's like they weren't listening.
Clearly.
Yeah, and this is Marvel. They've had a handle on everything for a while.
This film really is trying to one-up the Avengers in a way, in saying, okay, we just had this big shebang with the first team up. How do we follow that up and just keep having hit after hit after hit? And so I feel like maybe, they tried to put so much into it. And then we see a film like, Civil War or Thor Ragnarok where that works. But there's a larger ensemble cast, With Civil War, there's so many characters going on that you can have little subplots, and none of the subplots in Civil War have the same feeling and magnitude as all of the subplots do in this film.
Well, I think for Civil War, and I know we'll do a review of it later, but it's just a denser film. It's just got all that going on. It's to its benefit that you have all those different storylines coming together.
Absolutely.
Because you have so many characters, you have to explain them. There's one main character in this. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff going on. There's one main character, and Iron Patriot shows up from time to time.
Right. And the tone remains the same in Civil War, which allows those
yeah.
storylines, and those multiple plots to still remain on the same track. This is
All over the place.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's all different kinds of movies, too. I know we made the joke of how, towards the end, when he's attacking the mansion that the Mandarin's in, he becomes Bond on a budget all of a sudden, and he's running around. He's running around with these gadgets that he's made. And then you had the amazing point about the end credit music ties back to our joke about him being Bond on a budget with that 60s vibe and even the graphics and everything.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I think it was Mike that said that they're showing all the images from all the other movies because they want you to remember when it was good.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's the guaranteed box of you-know-what from Tommy Boy.
But why do they put a guarantee on the box then?
Because they know all they sold you was a guaranteed piece of shit.
For me, what I was looking most forward to, because as you said, it had a trailer that was just really riveting. I was waiting to finally see the Mandarin brought to the big screen. And as a comic book fan, he is one bad dude. And they portray him, and you made this point, they portray him very effectively as this very evil incarnate type of character. And then the big twist is...
I'm an actor.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
We were talking about if he's an actor, he's probably done some stuff, even though he admits he's kind of a low-level actor. But he's performed somewhere. Someone's seen his face.
Yeah.
Did they not have facial recognition? Well, I forgot. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s not participating. Neither is the government. But it's like they could have figured out that this guy was just an act the whole time.
At the end of the movie, we see him enlist the house party protocol, which is neat because we see all of these cool Iron Man suits that can serve different functions. How is it that he just couldn't call all his suits to do all of the things that he did throughout the movie? Okay, we need a suit in Tennessee. We need a suit in California. We need a suit in Florida. It makes no sense.
Why don't we activate this when we're being attacked?
Yeah.
At the 1/3 of the way through the film, and instead I just allow one. I do activate one suit to protect Pepper, and then I go down to the ocean and have one other suit there to. Again, why don't you activate that protocol immediately? Take down all the helicopters, protect yourself. Yeah.
And when Tony sends the suit to go on to Pepper, and she's like falling in slow motion, and all the pieces assemble around here, there's all this debris and rubble and rocks that are falling with her. How did none of those get hit or obstructed by the armor that's coming to Pepper? Like, I could see, okay, her hand's covered, okay, and her face is about to get there, and boom, she gets hit with a rock.
How horrible would it be if the plate is moving and catches that debris in it and just throws it in her face?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you go back to the house party scene at the end of the movie, and Rhodey is trying to get a suit. He's like, all right, send me a suit. I'm ready. He's like, they're all calibrated for me. Bullcrap, you just sent one to Pepper.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
And the president was wearing one.
Exactly.
He's wearing Iron Patriot, which I guess they don't calibrate to Rhodey. So Rhodey is really just left out of everything.
Not to even mention at the beginning of the movie when Tony's calibrating the suit for himself, he gets kicked off his butt and the suit pretty much just falls all off of him. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that it would perfectly fit Pepper at that point.
Absolutely. Oh, and Tim, you made the point about the destructibility of the armor.
Yeah, when he's after the scene where he catches 13 people and safely drops them into the water, and he's flying away all celebrating and stuff, he's smacked by a semi and falls apart.
Yeah. But it took a tank shell in Iron Man.
Exactly.
And he keeps on walking.
But and I also said, to me, that's almost metaphorical for the whole movie. You think Tony's doing all this heroic stuff, he flies off in celebration, and he's not even in it. Yeah. It's completely hollow, just like the rest of this movie.
And dude, seriously, we have to talk about the speed of this armor. It is just so unrealistic.
Yes. He's in southern Florida. The armor we know is in a non-existent fictional town, but it's in the vicinity of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And it somehow, when he calls for it, it arrives momentarily from Tennessee.
And don't forget, it flew from Malibu, California to Tennessee.
That's right.
And when it landed, it was essentially out of power. And I don't know, they plugged it up to something in that boy's barn, whatever.
A Dora the Explorer watch or something.
He just happened to have the right plug-in for it. I know they were able to charge it, but how was he able to fly that far and not run out of power?
Yeah, it makes no sense. Shane Black has never actually picked up a sequel before. That he's almost always written everything originally, and if there was a sequel, it's because he had written it first. Lethal Weapon and Lethal Weapon 2, for example.
And we talked about the tone where, in Thor Ragnarok, which we'll get to eventually, it's got a good sense of humor. It's a dark subject matter that they tried to alleviate some of that darkness with a good sense of humor. This one seems like it's trying to do that, but it also seems like it's trying to be dark and serious and funny and all-inclusive of everything. It just doesn't seem like it knows what it wants to be.
It is. Had it stayed dark the entire time, I think it would have been a very good film. If it had decided to be light the entire time, But
So in the film, they tackle the idea of Tony Stark having PTSD after the events of Avengers in New York. And I think that that's a really bold place to go. But, it has a lot of potential for the character. You take this character who is the king of the castle, the man on the hill for the MCU, and you knock him down a few levels with something that's going to set him back. In principle, that would work. In execution, not so much. I just think that the execution was not handled as well as it could have been. It was handled okay, just not as well as it could have been. And, I don't know. I think it just comes back to trying to juggle too many things here, because we had all these points that the film is trying to hit, and they just all kind of hit the floor because you can't balance it all.
The bar scene where the kids come up with the Iron Man drawing and they want his signature and they look up to him. I thought they did a pretty good job with introducing that aspect of the PTSD, and then Tony not knowing what the crap's going on, and then from that point it just kind of fell off. And I feel that really holds true to a lot of the stuff in this movie. They try to hit home and they just completely miss the mark for the rest of it. So.
Yeah, and you set up a point about him that he's going to have anxiety attacks moving forward, but we really don't see those anymore throughout the remainder of the films that he's in. You know, it's like he just goes, you know, and I understand that because anxiety, what you try to do is control the situation. That's how you control your anxiety. So this is what he's now doing is he's trying to control and manipulate every possible situation he's in, which leads us to civil war and many other things. But he should still be at some point suffering these panic attacks periodically so that we're reminded of it. Because if this is going to be the driving force behind him now and replaces alcoholism that we know is the key component of what is his weakness or his frailty in the comic books, well, if PTSD is going to replace that, then we need to make that more prominent.
Yeah, you don't need someone of Tony Stark's stature to be, I guess, diagnosed by I don't know how young that kid is, but the kid is the essential one that tells him, oh, well, just build something, you'll be better.
Right.
The kid's a shrink.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jarvis has identified that, you know, as he's having an anxiety attack or a panic attack, and Pepper was like, you don't need to be tinkering with things out here, that's not fixing anything. So then the kid tells you to fix it, well, now you're feeding the addiction almost. And this is the concern that I have is that if this is going to be the thing that replaces it, then he at some point needs to deal with it.
Yep.
And I just find that to be a real problem.
Yeah.
And with that, I think we're going to bring Iron Man 3 to a close. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And dude, seriously, we'll see you next time.